But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope. And today, I'm delighted to be joined once again by fellow Club 85 member and my good friend, the legend that is Lee Gowland.
Nice one, mate. Feels great, baby.
Yeah, when we finished recording the pod on Monday, Lee, I think it was Nadji that turned around and said, what are we going to talk about on this week's live?
Yeah.
And that all changed around noon yesterday in the UK when the news broke about George Kittle. Were you surprised that Bussing with the Boys were allowed to break the news that early?
Yeah, I was actually. I mean, you made a good point off air there that it was a prime UK market time rather than US time. Most people in California, they'd have been hours away from waking up. So they woke up to the news, whereas we got it in the middle of the day. So, I mean, I was over the moon with that. It kind of shows the global impact of the 49ers for them not to release the news during prime time over in the States.
Yeah, so it was Kaylee's 18th birthday yesterday, Lee, and I said to Tracy on Monday night, nothing will happen on Tuesday with the 49ers. You've got me all day. And then we were literally getting ready to head out to pick up her birthday cake and our lunch break. Yeah. And I saw the news come through. So the reason I've mentioned Bussing with the Boys, obviously Kittle is a big friend of that show. Yeah. They've been allowed to break the news. And I don't know if you've been on Twitter, but Ian Rappaport then broke the news after them. And I don't think he credited them. So there's been a few little cheeky tweets between them. And I think Will Compton's done a video saying, you know, come on, Rappaport, credit where credit's due. So we always say on this show, mate, credit where credit's due. But yeah, primetime UK, 12:32 for us.
Yeah, that was absolutely ideal. And you know what? I think it speaks volumes that we've getting George done so early, and before Brock. I think the organisation realised what George means to the fan base, what he means to the organisation and all of his teammates as well. I mean, they've already turned around and said he's an absolute legend. I think without a shadow of a doubt, if he didn't play another season, he's going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean,
he's that level.
The logistics for those people who may not have seen the news, the 49ers have signed tight end George Kittle to a 4-year extension, $76.4 million, Lee, which makes him the highest paid tight end in NFL history and keeps him with the 49ers through to the 2029 season. Now, that sounds fantastic to say out loud.
It does. And I think this is pretty much taken him through to the end of his career, if I'm honest, because by the time he finishes this, he's going to be 35, 36?
So, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this will take him through to the end of his career. And hopefully in that time, we manage to get him a ring, because he certainly deserves one, as do quite a few different other ex-49er players who did manage to, the likes of Joe Staley, Frank Gore, Patrick Willis. I can go on and name loads. Going back to your point, though, where you said if you didn't hear the news, if you're on watching this and you didn't hear the news, you must have been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, because that's all that's been posted in the group page, all that's been posted on Twitter. So, yeah, I think you're doing well if you haven't heard that news.
Well,
but yeah, great news.
I was having a bit of fun there. Obviously, last year, you managed to get a photo of Kittle with our flag. So the news means I can keep sharing that. And I'm not going to lie, Lee, Club 85 and that photo got a bit of airing on social media platforms yesterday. And there was only one outfit of choice for both of us tonight when we were getting ready. Right. So as you can see behind, number 7's been replaced. I normally have number 7 up in that top corner, but it had to be 85. Now, he has been a favourite of the UK faithful for some time, and that jersey...
Ever since he first set foot on Levi's turf, he's been great. It's his attitude. The way he plays the game, the enjoyment he has from doing the stuff that you wouldn't expect a tight end to get enjoyment from. You would think he'd be after the accolades, the receiving accolades, a little bit like Travis Kelce. I'm not saying that Travis Kelce was only interested in that, but you know what I mean. He's always targeted as a receiver, but he's not bothered. He'd rather smack somebody in the mouth than block them, and that's the type of player he is. And he still manages to put the yards up as well. And he's had some outstanding games. He's had some outstanding games, outstanding catches. I think obviously the first one that you think of is New Orleans when he was dragging 4 players, getting his face mask tugged. That one stands out to me. The next one is the catch in triple coverage from Nick Mullins, the last Battle of the Bay at Levi Stadium. I mean, that catch was unbelievable. And I know a lot of people will turn around and say, well, that was a really bad throw by Nick Mullins. Had Brock Purdy thrown that, we'd all be turning around saying, yeah, he threw it with anticipation. He knew his receiver was going to be there. And to me, that's what Nick Mullins did that day. He threw with anticipation. He knew George was going to be there. Yes, it was a risky throw, but it was probably one of many throws where, on this occasion, it turned out right. But there's a lot of other times it didn't turn out right for Nick Mullins.
That catch you're on about, that was one of the first games that Tracy had stayed over at mine. It was a Thursday night. Yeah. It was late. And I remember her falling asleep and me waking her up because Kittle had done this one-handed catch. And if you remember rightly, Gareth was at that game. That was one of Gareth's first games at Levi's. I'm pretty sure Gareth was at that game.
I'm trying to think if Andy Hudson was at that
and I think maybe Andy was as well. Now, I was going to talk a bit more about Club 85, but Colin has got an interesting fact that when he got married in 2007, the reception venue was called Club 85. Now, for those watching, Ty Alston, thank you very much for this T-shirt. The Club 85, Steve, I'm not sure if you are aware of the origin story, but it goes with that jersey Lee's got on and the one hung up that when we all rocked up in Bristol and everybody had an 85 on. And we kind of clubbed this moniker, Club 85, and it's kind of stuck. I hear some of the other content creators reference it. And to be fair, Colin, maybe Lee, a 49 Faithful UK meetup at an actual Club 85.
Yeah, well, I would love to know where this Club 85 is. Yeah. You'll have to tell us, Colin, in the comments.
We also have to thank CJ Bethard for George Kittle because it was Bethard that they were scouting and Kittle did the workout. And John Lynch said in 2017, our first year with the Niners, we selected a skinny tight end from Iowa whom we were really excited about. Now that has got to be an understatement of the century, Lee.
Yeah.
Given
definitely.
how he's turned out now, I mean, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, he was a 5th round pick, and we tend to do well with 5th round picks. I've just noticed that from Colin. That's a pity. I mean, he's turned out absolutely excellent. You could see his first season, he showed flashes, and then his second season, he just absolutely exploded onto the scene. Everybody knew who he was, and he just made such a mark and kept on going ever since then. I think 5 times out of the last 8 years, he's finished as the number 1 tight end in the league. He's finished twice, 2 times, 4th, and then I think it was 18th his first season. So other than his first season, he's never been out the top 4 tight ends.
So at the moment, if you need any more reason to love Jerry Rice as a 49ers fan, yes, it is linked to George Kittle Faithful. So Brian Peacock put a tweet out which said, it's insane that Kittle will likely retire the number 2 in career receiving yards for the 49ers and possibly be the first player to get halfway to Jerry's mark. And then he shared the table where it's got Jerry's stats at the top, T.O. number 2, and it's got Kittle number 3 at the moment. He's had 538 receptions for 7,380 yards, Lee, and 45 touchdowns. Now, Gareth knows I love a stat, but reading that out, seeing that today, Lee, I was like, I've got to share that on the live today.
How far behind T.O. is he?
So T.O. has 8,572 yards and 81 touchdowns, and he had 592 receptions.
Right, so it's possible he could actually pass him next season.
And Jerry Rice, for those people watching, has 19,247 yards and 176 touchdowns. So there you go.
He's getting nowhere near Jerry.
joined in the chat by CJ Ruthless. So, CJ, we will sort something out. Sorry, I've said that wrong, haven't I? CG. Sorry, buddy. He reached out before the draft to do a collaboration, but you were away. And then I was away last week with Tracy. So that's why we weren't live last Wednesday. But we will get something sorted, buddy, because I know you've been.
This must be my first live show in about a month, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I was away week after week after week. Caveat that with, it was at work. I was at work the first week, at least.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put out there, because it is always great for us, Lee, when the content creators reach out for a collab. Yep. We've got to factor in the time difference. And as I said, we'll sort something out, but we appreciate you joining in the chat. Now, Kittle was very tight-lipped a couple of weeks ago, Lee. Do you think this deal was kind of already done? Because he went to WrestleMania and then Diana Rossini broke the news that he wanted a new something about his contract. And then I don't know if you saw Kittle was like, your sources are wrong.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it was probably 90% done. I think it was only like the small print that we were getting sorted out on that. And like I said at the start of the show, I mean, it speaks volumes that we're getting Kittle done before Brock Purdy, even though they have been working on Brock's in the background. And I just wonder whether or not they're trying to figure out what they were going to pay George as far as a guarantee was concerned before they can actually finalise what they're going to give Brock. Because from all accounts, they're not too far away with Brock either. And the pleasing thing about that, if we get Brock signed in the next couple of weeks, we've signed two of the biggest stars that required new contracts this year early on. So it looks as though we're learning that lesson from having long, drawn-out contract disputes with players. Because we need them. We need them in voluntary OTAs, mandatory OTAs. We need them during training camp at the summer. We need them to have all the time there possible to not just for themselves, but to help out the rookies. Because we're going to have a huge rookie class this year because we've got that many spots on the roster that we need to fill.
Yeah. So your friend Mr. Kent was alluded yesterday or early hours this morning. I saw some things on Twitter and a few things on YouTube where he was alluding to the Niners had received calls in the draft about possibly trading Kittle and maybe we're waiting to see. Now, I don't know how much stock you put in that. If you asked Kyle and John, they would always say that everybody's got a price and you've got to pick up the phone. But I seem to think that this was already done. And I think it shows the magnitude of respect they've got for George that they allowed it to be broke on the busing with the boys. Now, if you're watching, John, please do break news like that at that time moving forward because it was absolutely perfect. And for our friends in the States who are watching on the West Coast, you got a little taste of what it feels like to be us when you wake up the next morning, Lee. Yeah. You switch your phone on and you're like, this has happened overnight.
Well, you say it was perfect timing. So both of us have access to the Instagram account. As soon as you put that on the Instagram account, my phone started going mental because people were liking it, people were commenting, people were sharing it. I was sat in the middle of meetings. I was thinking, what on earth's going on? My phone is going absolutely crazy.
It was literally, honestly, I'd signed out for lunch, switched my phone off airplane mode, and I just saw it straight away. And then I wanted to get that news. I wanted to get the news out there because Chris Wood, he tends to beat me to the punch on Discord. So it was nice to kind of get ahead of the curve a little bit on all the other social media platforms. But I just think that it was a good news story. And like you said there, I think what was interesting is I personally think Warner will get his deal before Brock, or they'll announce Warner and then they'll announce Brock. I don't know how you feel. I think that's the domino effect that they're looking at personally.
Yes, possibly. Possibly because you look at those two players, you look at Kittle, you look at Warner, and they are much more valuable than Brock Purdy is. And it's to say that over a quarterback is actually saying something. So Warner, he leads our defense. Kittle, he is the captain of the offense. He's got so much dog in him, which is what Jimmy Ward used to like to say. So much dog. And I know Najeel's probably listening to this thing, and I wish he hadn't mentioned Jimmy Ward because he hates him. But I love that guy, and I think you're right. I think if we can get Warner settled as well, and then that's our future sorted on offense, defense, then we'll get Brock done. And I don't think it's a problem with Brock. I don't think he's worried about it. I think he's come out and said, look, we're not too far away. He's very relaxed about it. Get all three of them signed, and then we've got no issues going into the off-season, into any of the training camps. And I think that'll be huge, because it's been a distraction for years now.
The reason I think like that is, I don't know if you saw the Brock Purdy appearance on the Built for More podcast, where he spoke to a couple of people from his church. And he was talking about it wasn't so much to do with the money, it's to do with the respect, the fact that he's always been overlooked, the adversity. And I just seem to think that it'll be telling that they've done what they did last year with CMC. They've got Kittle done. I think they'll get Warner done. And then I think they'll save the Brock Purdy announcement till last as that kind of mark of respect. Now, as you said, we were heading into this weird period of the NFL off-season where there isn't much to talk about. And being 49ers fans, we're normally used to buckling up for the kind of contract sagas. So like you said at the start, Lee, it is great that this one's done. And I do think it'll be that order, Warner and then Purdy. Obviously, you guys in the chat, let us know your thoughts. If, say, Paul, you're massively wrong, let me know. If you agree, let me know as well. It'll always be good to see what the faithful think.
You know, it's interesting that you're saying we're moving into the quiet part of the off-season, because we say this every single year, and we know it's not right, because something always crops up. For instance, 2 weeks today, or is it 2 weeks tomorrow, the schedule is released. And that's certainly not going to be a quiet period, because over in the UK, everybody's suddenly going to go into holiday mode, trying to figure out which holidays they can have so they can go see whichever games. And as you're aware, because I've spoken about it a few times now, I'm really hoping for the perfect schedule where we get New Orleans on a Sunday night and then followed by a short week and the Giants on the road on a Thursday night football, because then that means I can get a home game and 2 road games in less than 2 weeks. Yeah. I know it won't happen because I'm not that lucky, but that's what I'm looking for.
I know. I mean, I was talking to Dave Betteridge and Martin Hughes on Twitter earlier. So I know Dave's trying to get out over there. And I think Martin's the same as you. He's hoping for the stars to align. I won't be making the trip across the pond, so I'm eagerly waiting those 6 o'clock games to see when the watch parties will be. Interesting last night in Discord, Michael came with a few screen record receipts for me. I hope I'm wrong, Lee. I hope Matt Miyoko is wrong. I'm just kind of on the opposite to where you were last year. Matt Miyoko is one that I follow. I listen to his podcast. He's been very vocal that the Niners are not coming to London this year or next.
Yeah.
So I've repeated that, but I'm nowhere insider. I wish I was. I wish I had that kind of power and knowledge, I'm telling you, because you would all know about it.
Yeah, you're too right, mate. And again, I mean, come 2 weeks' time when that schedule is released, depending on how many primetime games we're going to have. And I've got to say, I'm going to assume it's going to be 5 again. So we're going to have 5 red-eye games. And obviously, I'm going to have to stick in holidays this time. In the past, I haven't had to do that because I've had a lot of flexibility. That flexibility is no longer there. So I'll have to stick in holidays the day after.
Yeah.
So, and I've kept those holidays back as well. And believe it or not, it was one of the reasons I looked for the type of job that I've got. One that had plenty of holidays that I could use on watching the 49ers play.
Well, interestingly enough, you talk about the NFL growing in the UK. So I was at work today and I was going to get a drink from the cafeteria and I saw someone at the corner of my eye who I believed had left the council where I work. He was a Bears fan. Obviously he's returned back to where we work purely, as you've just said, the new job he had only got 25 days holiday. So he's returned back to the council because he's missing those 7 days. And there's me and him stood in the foyer at Darlington Borough Council on our break, talking about the NFL draft, the NFL season. And all these people are walking past us, Lee, thinking, what on earth are them two talking about?
You know what? It's really strange because I'm of the opinion that the NFL has been absolutely huge in the UK for at least 20 years now. I thought it had. But as the years go on, I'm starting to find it more and more often in places I don't expect to find it. So when I started my new job, started February, one of the guys on the induction with me I think he was he is a Miami Dolphins fan. And we just got talking about American football, and he's going to be a shift leader over in the new plant. The new plant is the one that I'm actually the project manager for the IT part of it. And I don't think I'd seen him for weeks because I'm over in the main offices. And I got added to a Teams chat channel. And this Teams chat channel was entitled NFL Fantasy League. So he'd added us, and I think there's another 15 of us in this chat for this fantasy league. So there's plenty of people within my work environment are all NFL fans. So I find it interesting because years ago there was maybe me and one other.
Yeah.
And now I'm finding there's a load of people that I work with either watch it casually or do actually watch it quite dedicated. They'll go down to the National Series game. They'll make that trip out to the US to go and watch a home game or a road game. And they will turn up on dress down days as today wearing some sort of NFL paraphernalia. So yeah, it is everywhere I go now. Every single place I go, I'm guaranteed that I will bump into somebody wearing either a hat or a jersey.
I mean, the reason I reference that story is we did talk about the draft. So if you're joining us tonight for Draft Talk, the 49er for UK podcast was recorded Monday night. Lee managed to edit it in record time because it wasn't supposed to be out until today, but I know that dropped yesterday. So again, we do apologise for our listeners who are audio-only listeners on the podcast. I know we've not really had as much content, but Lee's been away. Nadji normally takes over the editing. He's been busy with family. So the last few weeks, we've kind of focused on the YouTube stuff, but the Draft Talk is out there. We talked for just over an hour, Lee. We could have talked for another hour. So it was quite a good show on Monday if you haven't heard it.
Now, I'm very nervous about that show that I put out, to be honest, Paul, because after I'd finished doing the audio processing and putting it together in Logic Pro X, I would normally listen to it through, all the way through, to make sure there's nothing I need to take out. Completely forgot about that. It just went straight out of my mind, and I just went straight on and published it. Now, the problem with doing that, if you go on and you publish your podcast, if you then take it down and republish it, you lose any downloads.
Oh, right. Okay.
And obviously the people that have already downloaded it, suddenly it goes on there with the same episode number, the same season number, and it doesn't re-download it because you've already done it. But you lose those off your stats.
I mean, just to clarify, I was going to say, just to clarify, this is just a hobby. Now, I know we are grateful for everybody who listens. This isn't how we feed our families, to quote John Chapman. This isn't how we put food on the table. But the reason I brought it back to that conversation with my colleague... But
there's a tip jar down there.
Yeah. You know, we've got to try it.
Pay for StreamYard.
Well, Red Jet Shell did drop a super chat in last week, and we have joked off air that the super chats are appreciated, but we're not at the level where YouTube lets us cash them out. So YouTube's currently got a little bit there.
It's a strange one, that one. Yeah, YouTube's banking our money, and they have been for the past 2 years now. And I mean, I don't want to make this like a begging show, but StreamYard put the prices up, so we're up to what, £380 now?
Yeah, it was about 90 quid each, wasn't it, for me, you?
It was about 90 quid each for the year. And then we've got the podcast on top of that, which I pay for, and I think that's another 90 quid as well. So it does turn out to be, it's not a do, but yeah, it's money that we never ever make back.
And with Jed tightening those purse strings, because I've got a little bit about that to talk about.
Yeah, I know. I mean, my budget for this year, I tried to get Jed to push up the budget a bit, but he wouldn't.
Well, I was going to get to a little bit of draft talk at the end, because I know we've signed some undrafted free agents, but the amount we've spent this year is a lot drastically less than last year. But I wanted to finish off with my colleague Andy. So we were talking about the draft, and straight away it just goes to show you the magnitude of the Kittle signing. He was gushing over George Kittle. Now, this is a Bears fan, and he wasn't in any way, shape or form saying you've overpaid, it's a bad contract. He was absolutely delighted. And I think Pat McAfee talked about that at the draft in Green Bay. Kittle's was one of those jerseys, front, right and centre. You know, you imagine you're walking into Lambeau Field, you expect to see green and yellow, but apparently all the NFL teams were represented in the shot. But Kittle was right at the centre. And given his appearance at WrestleMania, and given the energy that he brings both on and off the field, I think it was a good move by the Niners to get this one done. And I think the NFL themselves were quite pleased that this one was done as well. So I just wanted to finish off
definitely
the Kittle love, that's all. Now, off air, you mentioned a stat, and I don't know whether you've shared it, about there's this knock on Kittle that he's injury prone.
Yeah, so I wish I'd been able to get the percentages there, but when I went and had a look at how many games he's played over each different season, there's only one season where he's played less than 14 games. So he does have quite a high rate of playing time. And considering what he does, the way he blocks and how physical he is, then you can understand he's going to get banged up every now and again. Yes, it's generally his ankle, but I think he's kind of over that now. But yeah, it was surprising to see he's played 113 games of, I think, a possible 142.
Yeah.
So you're looking at about 75%. And like I said, I mean, he's playing a physical position there. He's expected to block, and he loves blocking. He puts his body on the line to make sure he gets that block. And he doesn't care about getting injured. He just cares about doing his job. And that's why he's worth the money he's getting. And I think it's good that we've given him such a huge guarantee that kicks in straight away. So that 35 million is all guaranteed up front, which means as we go along in that contract, so what was it, 76 million, 34 guaranteed. So you're talking about like 40 odd million spread over 4 years.
I did have the figures because somebody asked the question in our group about the Kittle contract. So yeah, 4 years, 76.4 million, which works out at 19.1 per year, which puts him above the Cardinals tight end.
Yeah, but that 19.1 per year includes the guaranteed.
Yeah.
So the guaranteed, it doesn't quite work out like that, because if you push all the guaranteed up front, his contract gets less as the years go on.
I think
the cap hit goes down rather than up.
But what I mean is they like it to show that he's the top paid. But it says 40 million total guaranteed, which you said 35 million now. Then he gets 5 million in 2027. And then when I was looking into it, he would have been playing this year as the final year of the 75 million contract he agreed last time. Like you said, it's good business to get it done. He's actually one of Purdy. Well, I say one of. He is Purdy's favourite target, leading all 49ers players in yards, 2,126, targets, 184, receptions, 143, and 14 receiving touchdowns since Purdy became the full-time starter. So again, the Mr. Positive over here is thinking, right, one of Brock Purdy's favourite targets. He's got those numbers. They've signed him to a new contract. Surely that means that behind the scenes, obviously Brock Purdy will have had an input, surely, to like the off-season plans for the offense. You know, like your starting quarterback, this is what we're going to do. So,
yeah, that's quite an interesting stat. I like that stat. And I don't really want to knock Debo, but I'd be interested to find out how many targets Debo had under Brock Purdy and how many drops he had in those targets.
I'm trying to see whether it's got on here now. Now, a lot of the fan base were a little bit stunned that in the draft we went 5 defensive players. We didn't.
I wasn't stunned.
No,
I loved that. I loved it.
We said that in the pod, but the bit I was getting to was not just the offensive line. There was a lot of talk whether the Niners would bring in another tight end. And obviously we haven't. I know we've got the lad in from the Jags who I think has been brought in to be more of a blocker, do you think? And maybe release Kittle
definitely
to be a bit more of a weapon.
I think he's only had 30 receiving yards over his entire career. So, yes, he's been brought in to be a blocker. But, yeah, I mean, we've got, 5 in the receiving room now? So we've got Farrell, we've got Pline, we've got Braden Willis, and who's the other one? We've got a 5th one. I know we've got 5 in the tight end room.
This is where you need Gareth and Najee. The two of us have gone solo. But, I mean, to be honest, though, like, you cast your mind back to this time last year. We were, the off-season when we were coming off the horrific Super Bowl loss. Ayuk's contract wasn't done. The momentum wasn't there. And I think the Niners have moved to get things like this done quickly. The momentum's there now. There's positivity around the building. I wasn't worried when Kittle wasn't there at the start of the OTAs because he was at WrestleMania. And he wasn't exactly shy in showing what he was doing at WrestleMania. I'm sure you've seen the footage, Lee, with Stone Cold, the beer cans. But I didn't expect the contract to get done this quickly. I don't think anyone did. Is that fair to say?
No, I didn't. Oh, yeah. It did catch us by surprise that it was done this quickly, especially after all the different reports. I'm over the moon that he called out that the so-called source to say you're talking utter rubbish. Could be. I think a lot of NFL players, a lot more NFL players should do that, just so we can like tell these people to get back in the box, especially our friend Kent. Yeah, I'd have loved Kinlaw to just, yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, on that note, Lee, it was worth noting that when Kittle finalised his deal last time, it wasn't done until August the 13th, 2020. So the fact that this one was done April the 29th. And since we've become a little bit more loud with our content, your source is the first thing. The first content. No, but it's the first thing that you say to us, though, Lee. Like, if you're going to report something in the group, you know, we've had a few, I want to say, near misses where someone shared something and it's not been from a reliable source. And you've mentioned in the chat, like, you know, come on, if you're getting this information, where you're getting it from. And obviously, when we record the pods and the YouTube, if we share something, we're always quick to say, right, we got this from there, or, you know, Matt Miyoko and stuff like that. So, but
yeah, I mean, you have to be careful nowadays because it's happening more and more. And there's a couple of certain 49er groups on Facebook who are notorious for it. They share all sorts of unfounded crap about the organisation, and you've got to question, why do you think they're doing this? Because it's never ever positive. It's always, such and such is going to leave if they don't get X amount of millions, and then nothing comes up, or somebody's going to retire and then nothing happens. And it's just utter rubbish, which is why we kind of censor that type of stuff. We know which groups it's coming from, and if we see it from that group, we just take it straight out because we know it's going to be an utter rubbish story.
Well, but, yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it's just part and parcel now of today's social media interaction. It doesn't matter where you go, what it is. You could be in a politics group, you could be in a cruise group. I mean, cruise group, there's a fine example going down a complete rabbit hole here. But I'm a member of a certain cruise lines group. It's a fan group, and they basically post tips on there. But they've had an influx of people from Nigeria posting these links about a ship sinking, another ship, everybody's had the norovirus and people have died, and you can tell straight away just by looking at the URL link that it's just a load of rubbish. And it's the same with the 49er stories. Straight away, as soon as they come through, I just look at the link, think, right, I know what that link is rubbish, and I get rid of it. And hopefully we provide a platform where people don't get caught out, because these type of links are the ones where you start and lose some of your identity. It's identity theft.
Yeah.
Because you click that link, you install a cookie onto your machine or your phone or your iPad, whatever it is, and they start tracking everywhere you go. So you need to be careful, and I like to think that we try and keep people safe.
So that's the end
of the public service.
I was going to say, that safety message was brought to you by Lee Galvin. However, on that note, Lee, it's because we've built our own community and we've kind of become more vocal. So yesterday, me and Lee both have access to the Instagram account, and at various times, both of us will be in it or will monitor it. You saw the message before me from John Charles, the artist based in Southport.
Oh, yeah.
Done the portrait of George Kittle.
Yeah.
So I was
portrait's unbelievable.
I was going to say, unfortunately, John, I did chat to him after you, Lee. I did say we will signpost people that way because the portrait is amazing. So we've shared it on Instagram. I'm going to work out how to get it shared on Twitter. And I did say to him that we will kind of put that message out there. And when I first saw it, I thought he was a US-based artist. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And then when I clicked into his profile, he's based in the UK. So I think he's hoping to get Kittle himself to see it. Now, obviously, I like to set myself a bold task.
I tagged Kittle. I tagged him in it because it's an outstanding painting. And I think that would be the type of thing that George Kittle would like. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you sent the flag out to him last year. I mean, those people who follow me and the group account on social media, I make no apologies for resharing that yesterday. I've even got it printed off over there somewhere, much to Tracy's delight. Right. And it's just one of those things that it made yesterday's news even better because, as we said at the start, Lee, George is a firm favourite of ours, both for what he does on the field and off the field. And we were lucky enough to be at the Buccaneers game, which was the salute to service game. And I know Kittle puts a lot of stock in the salute to service. So I just wanted to mention that canvas, that painting, whatever you want to call it, that John had done. And if those people at home are watching want to know more about it, as I said, we will be sharing it on our social media links. Have you got any more George Kittle lovely, or shall we move on?
No, let's move on. But as we move on, let's go back to the schedule release in 2 weeks' time. So obviously, all I talked about there was what game I want to go to. One of the things that I failed to mention is, obviously, in 2 weeks' time, we will have a very good idea what watch party game the 49ers are going to do this year. So I will be arranging a call with our contacts over in the 49ers to basically go through, right, what's the plan, which one we're going to target, where we're going to host it, and start making the preparations for that, because obviously it gets bigger every year we go, and I'm kind of hoping. I think it'll be back down in London. I think it'll be the Goldwood, because I think the Goldwood was quite a good venue. It was fairly open. I know that not many people like the VIP area because it kind of had the alumni to one side. Yeah. I think I'm of the same opinion of that, even though I was part of that VIP area. I think it was better when the VIP was downstairs.
Did you sit down at all? Because I think I paid £50 to access the VIP area to work for the 49ers. Yeah, money well spent, because I loved every minute. But I don't think either of us sat down, buddy.
Well, actually, the only time I sat down was when he was signing the back of my jersey, and I was sat there telling him the story about my dad. That was the only time I sat down. Other than that, I was up and down, trying to mix downstairs, as well as trying to make sure that Frank was okay. Because I felt as though I was a little bit of a PA for Frank that night. Because everything you wanted, I basically went off and got for him. But yeah, I think the VIP area wasn't great. No. Not for the fan base.
But for us, I think the exposure, as you said, the Niners sent over, the minimum staff members, and that's not a knock on the Niners.
That's because that's because they trusted us.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. And to be fair, we joke on about paying to access that area. We did that deliberately because, as you said, we kind of wanted to be that buffer zone. And the fact that protection. Frank was shown everywhere with a flag. And like you said, I think between the admin team that were in there, Neil Graham, Brett Sinclair, give them a shout out. I think the Niners themselves have said they were so impressed. Obviously, Gary took over the MC duties, but you're right. The schedule, we did start tonight's show talking about Kittle, but for every NFL UK fan, that schedule release is important, as you said, for those people going across the States. But for us supporting a West Coast-based team, we don't get many 6 o'clock games. And that is a sweet spot, isn't it, Lee? We need a 6 o'clock game for the watch party.
You can guarantee if we do get a 6 o'clock game, it's going to be the Giants on a Sunday night rather than a Thursday night football. And I won't get to go to New York.
Well, Hughesy's hoping for a New York game. I mean, is it going to be one of those where you're going to set up the call, you're going to know, and then we're going to do a live show, and you're going to be like teasing the announcement on your phone? I mean, just throw that out there, because not that you've done that before, Lee.
More than like, well, I mean, every single year I've known well in advance, but because they put so much trust in us, they do say, look, don't let it be known until we tell you can let it be known, which is why I've only really ever told you once, and then you went and told people. So
no, I told one person in front of you. However, I didn't do it on social media, and I got away with that.
I've just pulled your leg.
No, I mean, I know what you mean.
I'm looking forward to finding out which team it is, because every official watch party, we haven't won a game yet. Official watch party when the 49ers have been there, I should say. Obviously, we won the NFC Championship, which I do class as an official watch party, even though there was nobody from the 49ers there. And I was doing the emceeing all night long. But yeah, I think it's about time that we had a win with a member of the alumni there, so they can see how much British fans, and not just British fans across the pond, Europe, wherever, how much they enjoy this game. Because Joe saw it when he came over for the Browns game.
Yeah.
because we were all passionate about. Joe was jumping up and down with us every time we scored points. He saw the disappointment in our eyes when we got beat, when we failed to convert that final field goal at the very end there. So, yeah, I kind of hope that for the 49ers' sake and the alumni sake, we get a game where we do actually win it this time. And let's face it, if we can't beat the Giants, then we need to pack our bags and go home.
Well, obviously, as well, the fact that it was on the broadcast for the Vikings game, it was heavily mentioned on social media. And I think we've come to terms with the fact that the Niners have the UK marketing rights, but it's looking more likely Mexico will get an actual live game before us. And that's not a knock on Mexico, because, as we've said many a time, we're absolutely delighted for our friends out in Mexico. We know it's going to be unreal over there. And it was good to see them get to announce a draft pick with Patrick Willis.
Yeah.
You mentioned, possible 49ers players who could come across for the watch party. Patrick Willis was high on everyone's list last year. Since appearing on our show and promoting his own trading card, it'd be great to have someone like Patrick Willis over for this one. That would be
that would be unbelievable having Patrick Willis across. I was going to say I don't think Patrick Willis would need his own bodyguard, but I don't think Frank Gore would either. I mean, he's got a cracking right hook on him. But yeah, I think Patrick would garner the respect from everybody to just chill out, give him his space, let him walk around when he wants to walk around. Plus, I think Patrick's the type of guy that is more aligned to Joe Staley than Frank Gore. But having said that, obviously, Joe Staley is completely unique. He's a showman. Joe Staley, George Kittle, I think they would be identical in that type of situation.
Oh, yeah. Kittle will be coming across once he retires. Yeah.
He wants to be smack bang in the middle of that crowd. He wants to be bouncing up and down with us. He wants to be chugging pints. He wants to be doing fireball shots. Yeah. I mean, once Kittle retires and gets across here,
hang on,
it's going to be lit.
Got to interrupt you. A colleague at work today has told me his daughter, who's at university, has been mixing fireball with Lucozade. So the challenge is for the 49er faithful UK to give that a try. Now, the reason we've gone down the rabbit hole of the kind of the schedule release and getting excited, you mentioned there about Kittle, and it brought it back to, I've been considering another jersey, Lee. I didn't buy one last year. And then just before I pressed the trigger, I saw the news about the NFL rivalries. Have you seen much about this before I go any further?
Yeah, so I've read about it, but obviously they haven't given any hint. They haven't. So normally they'd give you a little bit of a hint about what that jersey is going to look like. So it's interesting because the way I read it, and I might be wrong in the way I've interpreted this, but it seems as though the jersey is going to have some sort of motif on it that represents the city. That's what it sounded like to me.
I was going to say, the new merch program is called Rivalries. The NFL and Nike new uniform and fan gear program. So it's about elevating rivalry games over the next 4 seasons. So the AFC East and
let's face it, it's not about West. Elevating rivalry games. It's about making money. Let's be honest here.
Absolutely. I'm just reading the blurb.
If it's a good jersey, take my money.
I'm just reading the blurb, because when Nike see this and see all the sales in the UK, they might reach out for a sponsorship deal. But the good news is for those people who were worried that it was going to be kind of one and done, because, the Major League Baseball do those kind of, City Connect jerseys.
Yeah, the City Connect jerseys.
Yeah. The NBA do a couple of different ones. Well, from what I'm reading, and this was off the NFL website, these uniforms will be included in the team's uniform lineup for 3 years after their introduction to existing alternate uniforms. So as you've said, we will debut ours next year. And the bit you were talking about, they've alluded to the bit you talked about, but the bit that got me excited says that the jerseys and apparel will be available across Canada, Mexico, Europe. I was like, yes, because I know you like to get things imported from the States, but
I was just about to say, yes, it's going to be available in Europe, but it's going to get made by Fanatics International, which is utter garbage, the quality of the stuff they do, which is why I import the stuff I can get from NFL Europe. I import it from the US instead because the quality is always better. Always.
So it's going to be new jerseys, sideline apparel, which I love, fan gear, including T-shirts, hoodies, jackets. We love a good jacket on this side of the pond, and headwear. So yes, Tracy, I know you're not a fan of the multiple caps, but I'm buying a new one. I know fine well I am. Yeah. But
I'll tell you what, we talk about buying merchandise and we talk about the quality of it. And I put that picture in, I think it was in Discord, of the new jersey I bought from China, the new rip-off one. The quality is unbelievable. The numbers are the right size. The hoops on the arm are the right spacing. The only thing I would say that was wrong with it was I ordered a large and it's more like an extra large. So it's one size up. So if you're large, order a medium. But the quality of it is unbelievable. And I managed to get myself a Juwan Jennings with the Super Bowl patch on it as well. And obviously the reason I got that, even though we lost the Super Bowl, was because I took Paddy Power to the cleaners on that night. Courtesy of Juwan.
Well, to be honest, I haven't purchased a DHgate special, but Conor Ryan has passed on a Brock Purdy Super Bowl one. And I have to admit, it's the first one that I've seen up close, and the quality was better than I expected. But I am interested to see what they do with these rivalry jerseys. You are correctly. It is to do with making money, but we do love a good bit of merch. You know, we do love the salute to service. I did used to like the crucial catch. Can remember when I first got in the NFL, they went all out on that, and that's kind of fizzled out a little bit. It's still there, but it isn't as high profile as the salute to service.
You do still get the intercept cancer stuff, but you're right. It's not as good as the crucial catch. I think that was much better, and I don't know why, but the pink did look actually quite good on some of the stuff you could get. Whereas now you get the different coloured bands signifying all the different types of cancer. And it just doesn't look right. It looks, I don't know, cheap. I think it looks cheap. I like that one ribbon.
Yeah. So the reason that we've gone down this rabbit hole, Fairful, if you see any images, please tag away on social media, because we have got an active community in the UK. We do want to see. It is interesting that they've released so much information about this programme, Lee, but they haven't released kind of even any teasers. So some people who are more eagle-eyed than me have noticed that the 49ers social media team have tweaked some of their announcements, with the draft players. And if you look closely, it looks like there's some more like classic gold around kind of the borders, the fonts. If you look closely at like the announcements of the players that we drafted, there's certain little things that people on social media have said. Is that a hint at what it could be?
They've put 2 and 2 together and come up with 13.
Well, poor Michael came for me in Discord yesterday because he saw the Twitter account that I saw, which is a random Twitter account. Matt Cullen, who's a good friend of the show, did say that they tend to throw a lot of mud at the wall, this account, and then when the games are announced, they delete all the old...
One thing will
stick, then they say, yay, we got it right. Now, as I said, Lee, I do hope...
I know some Kent that does that.
Yeah, well... Mr. Kent has his following. I mean, as we said, we're not here for the clickbait. But as I said, I hope I'm wrong, because we've said if the Niners do come across, the plan is for the 4 of us to be down in London. We want to be able to produce content. We want to kind of try get those interviews, especially now Kittle's signed another contract. Getting Kittle with a picture of the 4 of us with a flag and just doing a soundbite like what we got from the Super Bowl, when Chris Conley said some things, Dre Greenlaw said some things. So, but yes.
Yeah, that would be special. Special indeed.
So we do have a little bit of actual news, believe it or not, Lee, other than George Kittle. So, offensive line has been a topic of discussion amongst the faithful. So the 49ers have agreed terms with former Pro Bowl offensive tackle DJ Humphries, which was according to his own agency, AMDG Sports. What did you make of this pickup?
In his early career, so I think he's played 9 seasons. In his early career, the first 5, 6 seasons, he played a decent level of football. The last 3 seasons have gone downhill a bit. I think last season he was either injured or he just couldn't get his place for the vast majority of it. Because when you go to PFF, he's not actually ranked out of any of the tackles. And the reason that is because he hasn't played enough snaps to get an actual ranking, because you have to play a certain amount of snaps. And then they'll say something like 20 out of 75. So when you look at the year before, I think he was down in the 40s. In fact, I think he's only ever broken the top 30 once, and that year he ended up 4th.
Yeah.
So he had one really good season. But you have to look at it. He's got experience. He knows what he's doing. He's played for some really good sides. It could be that the last couple of years he's just struggled with injury. He hasn't been able to get over those injuries or play to the level that he used to play to. It could be that this year he does do that. And you have to wonder whether or not he's been brought in as cover for Trent Williams, or whether or not he's been brought in to compete with McKivitz on the opposite side at right tackle.
Yeah, I've seen a few people hoping it's about McKivitz. I mean, as you said there, 31. He started all 100 of his regular season games for the Cardinals between 2016 and 23. The Chiefs then picked him up as a free agent back end of 24. But like you said, he didn't really play a lot. I think it's just that time of year where we're signing certain players to have a look. The offensive line, apparently, Lynch and Shanahan have said since we recorded that we were looking at taking a couple of players, but we got sniped in some of the rounds.
Yeah.
So I think it was a Raiders.
Because they didn't want to reach, did they?
No, they didn't want to reach. And then, as I said, John Chapman, shout out to John, he tweeted out 2 hours ago that the Niners gave out $927,000 in guarantees to undrafted free agents last year. They've only given out $92,000 this year. So the tightening of that wallet continues to kind of...
So this comes down to Jed reining in. I think it's basically Jed reining in Kyle rather than reining in John. Because I think, and I've said this before as well, the dynamics completely shifted now. So to me, what I'm seeing is Jed has basically said, we're not going to waste money on these players just because you like them, Kyle. You're good friends with them. You need to take that step back and actually be a coach, be a head coach. We're only going to pay players what we think they are actually worth, rather than trying to suck up to them because they go onto social media and throw a hissy fit. And I think it's a good thing to do that, because to me, you look at that draft, and I think that draft, people say it's got Salah written all over it. To me, it hasn't. It's got John Lynch written all over it. John Lynch was in charge. He looked at what our needs were, and then he discussed those needs with the person who's going to coach those players, which was Salah, which is why we now have what I think was a bloody good draft.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was talking, as I said earlier, to my colleague, and he was saying about how did the draft go, and I was like, I wasn't surprised that we focused on the defense. The Niners' 3 biggest problems last year, the whole line wasn't up there. 29th in run defense.
Yeah.
You know, we said that we need to stop the run. So the Niners have retooled at a position of need. We all said after last season, Lee, we need something to change. We brought Salah back. And as you said, Salah and Lynch have obviously sat down. They've got the key pieces. I do think it was interesting that after the draft, it was Shanahan that was saying he was the one that wanted Williams, and it was him that was telling his wife, and he was worried that we weren't going to get him without trading up. I did like that message. I don't know whether it's true. I don't know whether that's Shanahan kind of stepping up into the head coach role. As you've yourself have said, you want to see Kyle focus more on the organisation as a whole rather than the offence.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, hopefully he has done that. Like I said, I mean, I'm not one of these that wants to get rid of Kyle just because we haven't won the last 2 Super Bowls that we've been in. I think he's still a relatively young head coach. He's still got a lot to learn, just as Andy Reid did when he started out. He struggled quite a bit in his younger days as a head coach. I think Kyle will do the same thing, but as long as he shows progression, stops making the same mistakes. So the next thing I'm going to be looking for next season is, what's his time management like at the end of the half? Because I always feel as though we waste a load of time at the end of the half. He's far too conservative. All he wants to do is see if he can get into field goal range. He's not bothered about going for that touchdown. Because to be honest, some of the teams we've played, and we've been conservative in the first half, at the end of the first half, if we basically stuck our foot on the pedal, we could have been out of sight going into the second half, which would have made it really difficult for the opposing team. But instead, we find ourselves in these really close games. When you're in really close games, it kind of G's up the opposition. They're going to put more effort in, and then you start getting bigger hits, more injuries. And it's no wonder that we've been one of the most injured teams in the tenure of Shanahan and Lynch. We always turn around and say, it must be the way he's training them, because we've gotten rid of the strength and conditioning teams so many times now. It can't be that. It's got to be the way we play the game and the way that we practice the game. And for me, we keep it too close too often, which means you're going to be in a tough game.
Yeah, they've made changes to the practice facility. I think that's to do with the World Cup being hosted at Levi's, and I think they've extended some of the grass pitches. So I think they're looking at hosting joint practices with the Broncos, because we said many a time in this show, Shanahan puts more stock in the joint practices in the off season than he does the preseason games. But the offensive line talk, the reason why I wanted to finish the show on this, Lee, as I was talking to my colleague who supports the Bears, he was saying there isn't many good offensive linemen around the league. It isn't just the 49ers have this problem. Yeah. And the ones that are good, who do reach free agency, are getting paid. And it just,
that's right.
Ironically, as you've just said there, Jed York's decided this year, I'm not signing those kind of checks at the moment. I did want to kind of squash a rumour that it's to do with the 49ers enterprise buying Glasgow Rangers. And I know those people who are part of our community who are Rangers fans are very excited, like the Leeds United fans are. However, our stance, Lee, is the 49ers enterprise is a separate entity. Isn't that right?
It's a completely separate entity. So it's not the San Francisco 49ers organization. 49er Enterprises do have some of the same people involved with the 49ers, but also has a bunch of other people who aren't involved in the 49ers. And for me, for you, for the admin team, it is completely separate. We're going to try and keep it completely separate. I think what we'd find is, well, why aren't we doing the same thing about the Leeds posts? And I think the difference there is, when you look at the people involved with Leeds, they're the people who've come out and joined us in watch parties, and it kind of gives you that connection. But I think another thing is, it's obviously the sectarianism between Rangers and Celtic. It's just downright nasty. Whereas Leeds fans, Man United fans, I mean, Matt Healy, he hates Leeds. He makes his feelings known about Leeds, but it's not the way that we saw when the news broke about Rangers. And that crosses a line for us. It crossed the line, so we get rid of it and we nip it in the bud so it doesn't happen again.
So, as I said, for those people who support Glasgow Rangers, you're very excited that you're connected to the Niners, the same as Leeds United fans are. And as you said there, Lee, a few posts went in the group. We've took them down. We just kind of wanted to take this time to say we're not going to share those posts, are we, Lee? That's why I wanted to bring it up.
No, you're quite right, mate. And I think it's about time we made the point. There's only one team in Scotland, and that's Falkirk. They're the only team in Scotland.
Neil Watson, I'll give you the address for the complaints department. However, I was just going to say, Lee, there is only one team that unites us all, and it's the 49ers. Similar to when the Leeds United stuff broke, and I remember when we travelled down for the first official watch party, and I remember getting off the train, there was me, you, your Ben, a few others, and we were all in our red jerseys, and the station staff were like, who are you guys? Because there was a big talk about the red and white in Manchester United. And I remember in the bar in Leeds talking to Leeds fans, and obviously they clocked my accent, and they were trying to do a bit of football rivalry. And I was like, look, I don't do English football. I support the San Francisco 49ers. And even them were like, yeah, we can't hate for that. But it's just obviously the news has broke that the 49ers enterprise is likely to have taken over Rangers. So we just wanted to clear the air for those people who may have posted and wondered where their post has gone.
I mean, you're probably not going to like hearing this, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a meet-up at Glasgow.
Why wouldn't I like to hear that? I had an awesome time in Glasgow last
night. You might want to hear it. I know there'll be lots of people who don't want to hear that and probably will boycott it because of that. But yeah, I would not be surprised at all if there's a meet-up next season in Glasgow.
Oh, I mean...
Not one of our meet-ups, by the way. A watch party.
Yeah, I was going to say the logistics for our friends who are down south in the UK. We do appreciate there was a knock up in Leeds, kind of involved.
See, the thing with that is, though, are we're a UK group. It's 49er Faithful UK. Leeds are smack bang in the middle of the UK, and you get people from London saying, it's too far to go, but it's still too far to go for the people up in Aberdeen as well. And when they say, well, why don't we have it in London? Why don't we have it in Birmingham? Well, that's even further for the people in Aberdeen, further for the people in Glasgow, further for the people in Edinburgh. So they're not kind of thinking about the country as a whole. And a lot of people made the point of saying, why on earth are we having it in Leeds up north? It's not up north when you look at it as the UK. It's smack bang in the middle of the country.
Look at this rabbit hole that I've created.
I know. You've got us wound up now.
I know. So I did just want to kind of bring it back because we do try to keep to an hour on a Wednesday. I was going to say, any final thoughts, Lee, as we approach the end of the show? We're not quite there yet.
So you're saying we're going into the quiet period, but I've got a feeling that there's going to be some news broke about contracts within the next fortnight before the schedule release. I think they've already been working on it in the background. I think they were close to it because basically Purdy and Purdy's agent had alluded to that, saying that they're not too far away. So I think something might happen there. You've heard nothing at all about Warner. So even though I said earlier on, it would be good to get Warner out the way and then Purdy, I don't think we'll hear anything about Warner yet, unless it's just been done behind closed doors. Because you know what Fred Warner's like. He doesn't go... The only time he goes on social media is to promote his own podcast with his wife.
And we've got no problem with that, Fred. If you'd like a guest,
no problem.
Me and Lee can clear our schedule. But, I mean, to be honest, Tracy always says to me, you always talk about this quiet period. When's it ever quiet with the 49ers? And at that point, people, we do want you to keep those notifications switched on. Please do subscribe because, as Lee said there, around our own busy personal lives, work, if there's any breaking news, we have got the capacity to try and jump on live. And sometimes, Lee, the news breaks whilst we're already recording.
Yeah.
So...
Yvonne Hargrave.
Yeah.
Great example.
And obviously yesterday with the Kittle news breaking first over here and on the East Coast while everybody in the West Coast was still asleep. And then it was interesting a few hours later when they all started waking up, started seeing the same tweets again. Yeah. So yesterday's timeline was very George Kittle heavy. Now, I did want to apologise to some of the Welsh members of our community because on St. George's Day, I, tongue-in-cheek, shared a post with Kittle with the flag and I said, Happy St. George's Day. Now, the reference to that was George Kittle is all of our patron saint of the UK faithful. But a few of our Welsh members, Lee, pointed out that it was more of an English connotation. But I had a bit of dialogue, bit of messages backwards and forwards, and they did agree at the end that, to be fair, Paul, we see what you've done there. But if I did cause offence, Lee, it wasn't intended, and I just wanted to apologise at this moment.
If you did cause offence, I think people need to reevaluate their life.
Well,
honestly, little things like this.
Sometimes you can read things wrong, but when I proofread it,
I mean, it should be obvious what that was. The fact that we shared a picture of George Kittle, it should be obvious.
Not just a
picture.
It
just so happened to be St. George's Day.
It was with our flag as well. To be fair, and I love to share that photo. But have you got any more final thoughts, Lee, or any messages for anybody who may be watching?
No. I think we've covered everything. I would say just hang in there through this long off season. We had a terrible season last year. I'm sure you're all itching to watch 49 football again, just as we are. It's going to come. I think if I was to give you any hope for the future is I think we've drafted really well. I think our defense is going to be something different next year. It's going to be interesting to watch because nobody's going to be able to run against us if these players play to the potential, and that means they're going to have to pass against us. And I have every confidence in Demo Lenore and Renato Green. And the new guy, Upton Stout, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he starts at nickel and continues going. He is the absolute spit and dabs of K1 Williams the way he plays, and K1 Williams was an absolutely cracking nickelback.
So Luke has just got a message in there. Now, I did want to say...
I have no idea who George Carlin is.
Nah, to be honest, I did want to say before we finish off, I have already mentioned the like and subscribe. If you are watching this video back, please do drop a comment. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. We will be back next week. Topic and guests to be confirmed, because as this week has shown, Lee, anything can happen from when we press end stream to the next day. We do have a few guests lined up. With regards to the podcast, we're not sure whether we're going to be doing a podcast and a live or either or, but we will be releasing content of some description, won't we?
Yeah, we will. And I just want to say one thing before you finish off there, Paul. A couple of our group members have had a bereavement in the family this week. And I'd just like to say that all of our thoughts and prayers are with Neil and Ruth at this time. I can't say I've been through that type of thing. And we hope you're okay.
Yeah, totally echo what Lee said. We are a community. If anybody else is also struggling, just reach out. The DMs are always open. But as you said, Lee, our thoughts are with Neil and Ruth at this difficult time.
Yeah.
And so, moving swiftly on, faithful. As we said, we will be back next week. Topic and guests to be confirmed. My new catchphrase is still relevant. I'll need a new one at the end of the season, Lee. But all that is left for me to say is trust the process and go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in our heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, deep Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted.